Stand up and get ready to take a blow. You have the confidence that you can accept the blow.
As a point of interest, none of my men wear protection in groin. None.
After all, you wouldn't want your attacker to get injured.
That hurt my foot. Ball into the feet of Pereira. Now it's Legend. Combines with Ariola. Ariola got numbers around him. He pushes it towards Velasco. And it's an early goal for Alan Velasco for FC Dallas. 1-0. A goal in the 7th minute. 1-0. Well, it comes out of a little bit of a scrum there, but Sebastian Legend is able to do just enough to keep the play going. You know, the last few games, we've seen that ball come across Alan Velasco as he opens up his hips, and he's got it close. You called it a couple of times where he goes for that upper right corner. This time he goes low. He knows he's in close. All he's got to do is direct it, doesn't have to.
Well, difficult game. We knew it. It's going to be a difficult. From now on, every game is going to be a final for every team. And you could see it right today. Both teams that wanted to win, quality, a lot of energy, and moments. And then we had our moments. And when you have your moments, you have to score. And we had the moments, the chances, and we didn't score. And this is why we couldn't win the game. And they had also their moments. They scored a tie. And after that, what I like from the team is the response. I think we had a great response. I think the guys that came from the bench and the solutions, they help us a lot to speed it up, the game, to play with more urgency. And it was just unlucky that we didn't score the second goal at the end.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Big D After Dark. That was just Coach Nico, head coach of FC Dallas, Nico Estevez, in his post-game comments after a 1-1 draw at home against Real Salt Lake. We're here to break that down and other news, and of course to take your comments and questions for those of you joining us live 1 hour earlier than we normally do because schedules and live changes. We'll talk about that maybe a little later in the show. But welcome, everybody. My name is Nathan Hill. I'm the host of this here shindig, and you can follow me at Nathan J. Hill on Twitter. There in the middle with us again is our buddy Tommy LaBeouf at Tom_FC Dallas. Nice guitar in the background. And rocking a Qatar shirt already, I see.
Yeah, ready.
All right. Nice.
Wait till I pull out my USA jersey that I got. I got the old is it 84 jersey, the ugly one with the stars.
Yeah.
I got one like that with Pulisic on the back. It's gonna be cool. That's the greatest jersey ever made. I'm excited for it.
All right, nice. And there in the end is our buddy Jose Carmona at El Chico Carmona on Twitter.
What's up, everybody? Just want to say happy birthday to my youngest daughter, Mindy.
All right. And our buddy Kuv is already watching. Thanks, Kuv, for joining in. Please know you can send in your comments, your questions, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, and give us your reactions to this game. I mean, so we talked about it last week. We were willing to take that sort of roller coaster week with a big win, 2 wins on the road. Two wins at home, then the big loss on the road. A tough loss on the road against Nashville, but maybe you say, hey, they got through a three game week. They're going to rest up. They're going to be ready for home. And for the first 7 minutes or so, it looked spectacular. Alan Velasco, the great, well-earned goal, just a clutch moment. The team seemed to be mostly in control in that first half. In the second half, RSL was able to get the tying goal on a cross and a header. Tough moment, and the team just couldn't quite respond and get that go-ahead goal to get 3 points at home. So a disappointing result. So let's just talk about that, especially in the context of the playoff race. Now, in relation to where Real Salt Lake is behind FC Dallas, is it the end of the world? No. RSL is still behind FC Dallas, but FC Dallas has fewer games ahead of them, and I think RSL and Minnesota have a game in hand still. Is that correct, Jose?
Yes, that's correct.
And so
And
there's not much wiggle room for FC Dallas to give up points.
yeah, and a draw at home. I mean, that's against a team that's chasing them and has, you know, games in hand. It's just it hurts. I mean, that's you're looking at 4 points, you know, that were basically lost if you think about it, because it's a 6 point swing, and sure they didn't lose, but I mean, of all the points that you don't want to drop, it's the ones at home.
Yeah, I mean, we know these. We've been talking about these home games are vital for every 3 points going forward as our buddy Hoach there points out. And so a disappointing, especially when you wanted to see the team really put that Nashville game in the rear view window. But there were signs of I mean, for me, I think it's a disappointing result. I'm just not happy with it. I understand. I'm willing to take it if it was a hard-fought match, but I just don't think. I thought we didn't see the best of this team on Saturday. I thought the team played decently in spots, looked very dangerous, but RSL, pretty much bottled FC Dallas up, prevented some things. When FC Dallas starts taking shots from way far out, it's not playing into our strengths.
The Costa special.
Yeah.
That was the Costa sighting or two.
Tommy, what were your thoughts about the match?
I think let's start off with the positive is Velasco. I mean, I said earlier in texting is that on Twitter is that his defense has just gotten really, really good this year. We've seen him improve. Like we've seen him, you have a kid, you see them take baby steps, and then you take one step, and then they're walking really fast. In the same sense, we've seen that with Velasco. I mean, his game, he's adapting his game to this league, and listen to other shows. It brought to light that he's not really trying to take defenders on one-on-one, but he's also beating defenders one-on-one. He's really perfected that little cut move to the right to go inside, and he's just been really, really good with his passing, precise passing in the midfield. He plays on the wing, but when we get the ball and we're attacking, he kind of comes into the middle at times, and he's kind of a link between him and whoever is, Jesus or whatever. But his defense has been really, really good, and I mean, I know he had that kind of boneheaded play where he fouled, and they had the free kick earlier in the year, being a little too aggressive in the wrong spots. But I liked what I saw from Velasco as far as defense. He had a tactical foul, I should say, when they had numbers on transitions, and I thought the positive was Velasco. And I thought Jesus had a good game. The game was kind of wide open in the second half. And one thing that was kind of like the same story again is we've seen the blueprint to how to play FC Dallas. And what's the blueprint that I've seen that's been successful for other teams is that you wait to the second half, you bring two players on, and then next thing you know, you got the momentum. Those two guys came on, and they asked Nico after the game, why didn't you adjust? And he's like, well, we didn't adjust. We just had to defend better, but we were tired. Well, when we say adjust, I mean that's an adjustment is bringing on someone in the back end to play, maybe Tafari. I get that Coach Nico doesn't have the biggest roster. He's really got bare minimum, and he's choosing who to play because he wants to win. And he really doesn't have a lot of people to go through from the bench, especially in the back line. And his back, Hedges, we love Hedges, but Hedges is very old. Martinez is very slow, even though he's very technical good, but pace beats him, right? But right before the show, I looked at the first goal from Velasco, and the defender kind of left him unmarked, and the ball kind of came over to the weak side, and he had a great shot. I mean, he didn't have to kill it. He just had to get it on target, and it scored. That's also what Velasco brings to the table. But similarly, at the end of the game, Martinez kind of lost his focus on the defender. I pointed that out on Twitter. Is that the guy came in and Martinez really didn't follow the guy and kind of let him get into the box lot of space, and when the ball came in, Martinez was so far away he couldn't even jump to make the play on the ball. So I mean, this is kind of that same story on the team that we always have a weak link that's killing us, or a weak play. That maybe if we had a better player, that I hate to blame it all on Martinez, but it is kind of is what it is, right? I mean.
I can't disagree with Tommy there. I think it's a tale of two halves. First, I want to say that I have to agree with Velasco and his goal. It just and him beating guys off a dribble and whatnot. That just comes down to him gaining better understanding of where he needs to be, and most importantly, where his teammates are. Yes, you're seeing him take on players, but now you're seeing him not faking like he's going to take on them and then passing to his men, because now he knows where they're going to be. I think where before he had no clue where his teammates were going to be, so he was trying to force the one-on-ones. Now you're seeing him fake players out, take them on, or simply pass it away, and his positioning has been just fantastic. I mean, he had quite a few interceptions where he was just placed beautifully, to take the ball away. And it's a shame that the team could not, turn those into anything. But there were several plays where I'm like, man, he was just a ball hawk out there, and his tactical foul, that just goes to show that he understands that foul needed to happen. So when that foul happened, nobody said, "Oh, that's horrible." Everyone said, "Yeah, that was that was the right move," and that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing a talented player who's getting it, and now that he's getting it, and you'll see the game start slowing down for him. And I mean, if this is just his first year, I mean, you gotta think that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg is what we're hoping on. I also want to do a quick shout out for my man Cirillo, who everybody was crapping on midweek, and I thought he had a good game, a good rebound game. Not that he had a great game, but for a player who gets who basically looks really horrible midweek, and then has to come out and start because there is nobody else that can start but him, to come back and play a solid match.
Yeah.
I
Folks are
think
much quieter about him. Yeah.
From a young player, that's what you want to see. You want to see him rebound, and I was very happy with that. So yeah, just it's the same thing that's been plaguing FC Dallas all season long, and that's the inability to get a second goal after they score, and this team just. I'm not sure that we have an answer for that. I mean, it's when it comes down to the end of the match, Nico just doesn't have enough depth, and it's not that he doesn't have talented players. It's just that you have to remember that some of these players are injured or coming off of injuries. The more talented ones, Cervania, Siki, who else was Quignon. These guys are all coming off of injuries and are definitely less than 100%, or at least out of form. So he's forced to play them and know that, hey, they're probably not optimal, and they're not going to be up to speed. And that's what happened is when Dallas needed to answer. How are you going to answer, So, and that's hurting them. But, you got to see, I'm happy to see Cervania out there. I'm happy to see Quignon out there, because we'll have to take that loss of points now, and hopefully they'll get up to speed and be there at the end of the season when every point is, a must.
Yeah, I think fans should not be happy with this result, but I think it does. It just points again that this is we give Nico some slack here, because he has what tools he has to work with, and he has limitations. He has limitations from what he can pull on to play and to get out of these guys. And actually, like Obrian, for once, kind of looked okay off the bench. Obrian was at least dangerous, getting in some opportunities to try to generate an attack, a goal, a chance on goal. He really probably should have scored there. It just so we saw some things as usual. Sometimes it's not just about what we have on the bench, but if the guys on the bench would just perform to their capability, this team could do a little bit more in these critical moments. And I'm also with Tommy. Just like I think if as a head coach you're beating your head against the wall, you're wanting more out of your guys, and they just are never quite getting it, then it's time to shuffle the deck. It's time to look for some fresh talent to get in there to help provide some answers, because it's just tough. And every other team is on the move in the same way, always trying to look to get better, and so it's a work in progress.
When the game ended, I was disappointed in the tie, but compared to last year, if you remember where we were last year, how bad it was last year. Nico has gone along. The team has come around to being, they're not.
You froze, my man. So let me pick it up. What's going on? I want to say that O'Brien coming in, he should have come in earlier. He is what he is, and I think on one hand, bringing in O'Brien late shows that the team is trying to get that goal, because let's face it, he is a defensive liability, and you bring him on when you're hunting for that goal, and that's why he was brought on. And I hate to say it, but we really missed Hara in this match, because he's the player you would have wanted at the end. As slow as he is, and as little time as he can give you some those last 10 to 20 minutes. He can go hard and strong, and they missed that. That's what they needed, and we're all like, hey, Hara doesn't get to play. Say what you will about Hara, but he is a quality option off the bench when you're looking to get for that goal in the last, the 9 minutes of the game. He's a guy that's going to battle. He's a guy that's going to do a lot of gritty stuff out there. We'll all complain about him, but we really missed him in this game, and it showed. And I think we're all rolling our eyes when Nanu came on. But, Tuamasi, he's played a lot, and it's unavoidable that with as many games as this team has played, Tuamasi is a young player, and he needs to rest. They can't run him out there 90-plus minutes all the time. So, but I wish O'Brien would have come out there earlier. That was my complaint, is when Real Salt Lake brought in their 2 players. I'm one of those guys who are saying, hey, I don't like that Nico didn't respond and didn't adjust. And again, we've seen this before. yes. We've seen this before, where he doesnn't make adjustments until after we concede the goal, and by then it's too late.
I thought Tafari should have come on. I think I got lost when we were disconnecting when we were talking.
You froze there, so you were like,
yeah. I was going to say is that based on last year, you got to be somewhat happy with what we've done so far. The team is in the top of the standings right now, not at the top, but near the top, and they've overachieved. I think because of the coaching, the roster, and the way he's played the players, the best players. But as I thought earlier in the year, you keep on playing the same players, they're going to get tired at the end of the year. They're going to get hurt. If you don't have a full roster, Yes,
yeah. but let's keep it in context. Where they've overachieved to this point, they still haven't locked in a playoff spot, so they haven't actually overachieved officially until they clinch that playoff spot. I think they're ahead of where we all thought they would be. Even the grimmest of FCD fans have to admit that. But every game going forward is going to be a playoff game, in all honesty. Every single match from here on out, every loss will hurt and will, even I don't want this team to enter in 7th place or 6th place. I want a top 4. That's what this team has a damn well good shot to do, and I'd like to at least see them, perform to where they have to be beaten to that spot as opposed to them being knocked out of that spot. You know what I'm saying? I won't be upset if they don't get fourth spot because they got beat on a tiebreaker or something like that. I can live with that.
Well, the question is, do they have a chance to beat LAFC at LAFC?
I mean, did you see LAFC lose to Austin? If Austin can do that to them,
it's Major League Soccer.
Okay.
You just never know. I mean,
right.
do you want to bet on it? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We all fret about the LAFC match and whatnot, but it's playing tough. It's on the road. It's going to be tough, and I'm more concerned. I think they can beat the LAFC. I'm more concerned that what happened against RSL happens against LAFC. I'm more concerned that FC Dallas goes up and then squanders away a lead and had to settle with a draw at home. That's my concern because I think FC Dallas can beat LAFC at home, but I can't guarantee it.
The other question, my season ticket holder, who I've sat next to me for years, has brought up a point. Has FC Dallas been really good this year, or has the competition been not as good?
That's a good question. I'm clear. I think Major League Soccer has never been better. I mean, I think just the talent. I used to remember watching, and I would say about 6 or 7 of the teams, like, man, I wish we had, one of those guys. That would be great. But I think just about every team has a guy or two that I think, man, this is a good player. And there's some good homegrown players mixed in, some good domestic players that are all. So I do think, I mean, San Jose, I'm not going to say that they're loaded with talent, but hey, send us Kate Cowell. Kate Cowell would be fine to develop here, but yeah, but you look at a guy like Drusy that Austin got. You look, even the way Colorado has built a pretty strong roster, even though they're not so great this year, Seattle and Portland are having down years, but they're still teams that can wipe you off the field on any given day. So I think it has become more. And even looking at Vancouver, and I thought, Vancouver's doing some excellent signings and trades. So it's just getting more and more competitive as teams get smarter. And I think FC Dallas has been part of that.
I thought FC Dallas has been the better team versus Austin. I think both games I thought FC Dallas was way the better team than Austin, and so I want to meet them in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's about the matchups. FC Dallas just matches up well against certain teams. I mean, look at when they played the LA Galaxy. They a team that wasn't going to bunker against them. FC Dallas made them pay for that. So
right.
I just think that MLS has improved. I mean, if you're an outsider, you're like, it's still MLS. But for people that have been following MLS all these years, I like to say that they're past the NBA style team where in the NBA, if you've got 3 really good players on your team, you're title contenders. And that's kind of how MLS with the 3, DP rule. You'd have teams that have 2 really good players and then an average team, or 3. The better teams had 3 really good players, and then the ones that have a solid team built around those 3 players would be the better teams. But now, since TAM got introduced, now you've got teams that have, look at LAFC. How are they've got like 6 DP players on that roster, and I have no clue how they're doing it, but I'm sure a lot of teams are take notes and say, whatever they're doing, we need to do that.
Yeah.
And honestly, FC Dallas has like 9 players that could technically qualify as DPs, but they're all bought down. So I mean, I'm just saying the roster builds are better than they used to be. And that has a lot to do with the academy teams. San Jose. It has to do with the academy teams pumping out more talent. That has to do with the reserve league that everybody hates, but it's a necessity that, it's just American soccer is growing. And as those lower league teams, USL, NISA, MLS Next Pro, as they start pumping out more American talent and start filling in those fringe players for MLS, you'll see that lower the guys that right now they can't get on the field, when they get on the field, they'll be better. So I think
Well,
as a whole,
in the beginning, just not too long ago, I mean, the biggest thing for MLS was the big player coming in town, whether it was David Beckham and the nobodies, or
and that's
so
still
and
there.
so. It is still there, but the biggest change, and I think Texas is leading the way with the interstate, with the in-state rivalries, with now Austin being in here, Houston. I mean, that has done wonders for the league. I mean, we have a lot of people coming to the games now when Austin plays from out of town to watch, and it's going to eventually, we're going to go there. And if other states follow that suit, it's just going to grow and grow. It's kind of like, it's not quite like the relegation and promotion, which brings another dramatic part to the game, which I wish we did have. But, like the Oklahoma-Texas rivalry, having half stadium, I can see that happening one day very soon. Half Austin, half Dallas,
And
especially if the roster
and while you're
continues
saying
to.
that, I'm just saying that simply validates why MLS keeps expanding. The U.S.
Yeah,
is just a
yeah.
massive country, and to think that it should only have 30 professional teams at the highest level, that's ridiculous.
No,
It's
more.
just a massive country, and certain states, Texas. I mean,
All cities should
Texas
have them. Yeah.
Could have has 4 cities capable of hosting an MLS team. California has more than that,
Yes.
and the East Coast. I'm just saying it's not to diverge, but I'm just saying you're seeing the reward in Texas. 3 MLS teams. It just stokes the fire of we hate Houston,
Absolutely.
we hate Austin, they hate us. That's
Yeah.
great for the league.
It's like in England, right? Every city has a team, and they're within travel distance, and that's why the EPL is so great, because it's because of that. And I agree with you. They should just keep on expanding. Every city should have a team.
Well, hey, let me hit a couple of questions from the comments that we didn't get back to. This
Sure.
is one
Get
from
to
our
it,
buddy
get to
Hoach here. He says, Paul says it seems to have dipped in his final third productivity. He can't see him impressing enough to make the USMNT, the national team. Maybe I'm wrong. I wouldn't say he has dipped. He hasn't certainly gotten the goals or assists lately. But I do think teams are certainly trying to limit his capability, and some of these past few games have just had situations where it wasn't ideal for him to be successful. I mean, he works much better with Jesus up there, and with game states. I think that can I don't know, he can just wreak havoc. And so I don't know, but yeah, it was a little disappointing. Was hoping for more from him on Saturday. Do you guys think he should be concerned about his men's national team form?
I think he's on the edge. I don't know that he's got a lot of good players in front of him. It hasn't helped that he's not scored a lot and missed the post and just been a little off. But the guy gives 110%. His motor never stops. It depends what Burkhalter needs, if he needs that kind of guy on the team, because he's going behind Aronson and Pulisic. Those guys are really tearing it up. I love Areola. He's on the fence. Yeah, it is what it is.
I'm going to actually say that he's not on the fringe, and I'm not concerned about his form for the USMT, because every manager has to have those players that set the pace, that knows what is expected of them to show other players what they have to achieve. And Paul is one of those players. He's one of those players for Berhalter where he's going to bring him in because he knows exactly who he's getting. He knows exactly what he can expect from him. And he's not going to be a starter, but you got to have those guys pushing everybody else and say, hey, you play better than Paul if you want to be a starter. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to start Paul because I know exactly what I'm going to get from him. Okay? And I'm just saying, I know the U.S. men's fanboys, they go crazy about basically anyone in MLS, It's not about that. It's every manager has standards, and a player may be tearing it up in another league, but if they can't walk onto the team and give the manager what he wants, it doesn't matter what he's doing somewhere else. So I think Paul's fine. I think he'll be a player that'll be there, and he will have to be beaten out during actual U.S. men's competition. Somebody's going to have to basically show up and force him off the team. Until that happens, I don't think that's an issue. I would say Leggett is a player who is on the fringe. Because I mean, is he going to bring 3 players from FC Dallas? Probably not. He'll probably bring 2 at most. So you got Jesus, and then he's going to bring either Paul or Leggett. And I would say Leggett is along the same things as Paul, but I think he's more in the fringe. But again, I could see Leggett making it and not Paul. So it's more a numbers thing. I think one of those
Yeah, a
two guys
numbers
will
thing.
make it.
And
But I think
injuries.
Leggett,
And
but I
injuries.
think
I mean, who
Leggett
knows?
came to Dallas because he saw it. He said, "Hey, what's my best chance to get that World Cup if I'm not going to Europe?" And it's come to Dallas.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's Hoch's follow-up question. Just like, is this going to, if Paul does make it, if Sebastian does that just increase Dallas's reputation among
Absolutely.
players?
Absolutely. If 3 players from FC Dallas get invited to the World Cup and make the roster, yeah, that's a big basically spotlight on FC Dallas, because let's face it, everybody already jokes everybody already jokes about all the Dallas players that all the players that Dallas has produced for the U.S. men's national team that don't play for Dallas. So we already have the reputation, and having 3 players from Dallas, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm saying if for some reason it does happen, oh hell yeah, we're gonna have other teams within MLS, other players within MLS that are on the fringe saying, hey, I want to go to Dallas, and that's good.
I was going to say is that, you got Reyna, you got Aronson, you got Morris. It comes down to numbers. Definitely what's good for Areola is that he's a team player, and he's got that camaraderie with Jesus Ferreira, who's going to start, in my opinion, at top. So I think he has a good chance to be there, but it comes down to the numbers. It's not that he's not played bad. It's just, is he better than Jordan? Is he better than Reyna? Is he better than Aronson to take one of their spots? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand, and I agree, but don't forget there's also injuries. There's also things that come
Sure.
unexpected. That's what I'm saying is, as long as Ariel is healthy and isn't in terrible form, he's got a shot. Because, like I said, he's in there because of his work rate, because of his teamwork, leadership, things like that. The intangibles. He has the intangibles, and
Great team player.
that's what's going to get him on the roster, not the fact that he's going to be the best player or a starter. You need guys that are going to break their backs to help the team win and do all the little things that nobody else is going to do. And Paul is one of those guys.
Another thing going for Paul Arriola is how many times do you see Coach Nico take him off the game because he's tired? He never comes off. All right, I mean, the guy's got a motor that goes on forever and ever.
Exactly. When he's going to come out there and he's going to go 100 miles an hour the whole time he's there. And I'm saying that's something you can't teach. That's something that endears you to managers, in all honesty. And so that's why Jesus, everyone's like, oh, this guy, this player, that player is the 9. He's just an MLS. He gives Berhalter exactly what Berhalter wants. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what the managers want their teams to perform the way they want to perform, regardless of the talent. And you got somebody that's more talented. Okay, fine. That doesn't mean they're start. Then maybe they come in at the end when you're trying to get a winning goal or something. But consistency. That's what's going to get you out of the group stage.
Yeah, and I love the idea of Paxton on the United States men's national team. I think someday, but and I think Paxton's been playing well. He's been having a solid season. He's been putting more pieces together. Proud of him. Now he may go off these next stretch run. If he goes off and he has like 2 assists, a goal and 2 assists per game, like let's start talking about it at that point. That maybe
it's the fact that he hasn't been with the U.S. men's national team, so he's had no chance to build a rapport or anything like that. And so he's on the outside looking in. We all think he's good enough, but it comes down to numbers, and Paxton could very well be called to the U.S. men's national team next season.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not during the World Cup though.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think he's a year away from
It's probably
being.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think he's a year away. He'll be 100%. He'll be, firing all cylinders. But by then, he'll have missed the World Cup.
Might be the strongest area on the U.S. team is the midfield with McKenzie.
That's the other thing. It's like you said, it's a numbers game.
It's so competitive, and a whole bunch of guys are scoring now, a bunch of strikers in our pool, but that's good. I mean, I think that's what you want as a national team head coach. You want to figure out, you want to have a good challenge making that selection of final players. But I do agree. I think Berhalter has his guys who work in his system, and even if you're hot in your team, but if you don't quite fit, I mean, it's he's not going to disrupt the whole system. So it'll be a lot of questions, a lot of soccer to be playing, and who knows what's going to happen. But let's go ahead and shift on to a couple other topics here, and one of them our buddy Hoach here had a comment about. Let's start off with announcement this week. Well, let's start with the Schon transfer. Speaking about roster building, it was finally made official that Shabal's Schon will be moving to MLS FC back in top flight of Hungary, ending his tenure with FC Dallas, a tenure that was marked with immense potential, flashes of beautiful soccer, but also lots of time away at international team duty, and ultimately, especially this season, very little time on the field as he just could not convince Coach Nico that he was the right fit. The rumor is that he just wasn't putting the effort in practice. He came into preseason and the beginning of the season just a little lackadaisical, took a long time to get up to speed, and that just sort of put him behind the other players for long stretches of time. And then when we did get to see him in the Open Cup, he didn't exactly impress us wildly. So, just tough to see a talented player like that depart. We don't know what the fee was like. It probably includes some future options or the other, I bet, knowing FC Dallas. But an end to this saga, at least, and maybe that will ease up some tension in the locker room if there was any tension, I guess. What thoughts, Tommy? I know you've been a big Schon.
I'll let Tom.
Not really a big Schon fan. I just say that he based on the roster and not having a lot of players coming in, with the rotation that Nico's using, and based on what we saw in previous years, it definitely seemed like this guy should have at least gotten some minutes in 2022. Now, I do get that he went to Hungary, and maybe that's the story. Maybe they didn't want him to go, and he went, and maybe that's it. It's kind of over now. So I think that let's move on. Let's see what we get. But yeah, I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, he spent a year. He wasted a year of his soccer program by not playing.
Yeah, I think it's just been bad luck on his part. I believe he was a bit banged up early in the season. Wasn't really 100%. And then the fact that he wasn't getting playing time early, his national team called him up basically to ensure that he would, at least be getting minutes with them. And they continued to call him up repeatedly, and that actually ended up hurting him with this team. Nico is one of those managers, and so is Ka in North Texas, where they value your practice. They want to see you perform in practice. They want consistency. They want you balling out in practice, and if you do that, you'll play come match day. And Schon wasn't doing that. He was missing a lot of time on international time or injuries, and simply just could not get consistent practice. And when he was practicing, he wasn't practicing to the level that Nico wanted, and that's why he never really got on the field. And let's not pretend that he's the only player who's a former starter that's not getting minutes. You see, Manjoma is not really getting on the field, and he's a guy who was competing with Tomasi for a starting job just last season. And Tafari, who played 20 games last year. Tafari isn't really getting on the field this year unless as a third center back or because one of the other guys is injured. So that's what it comes down to is it's just a different philosophy, different system, and you have to show in practice that you're getting it, or Nico's not going to play you, and that's I don't have a problem with that, and I think we're all disappointed because as a U22 initiative player, here's a player that was signed supposedly for multiple years as a development player that we would eventually sell, but clearly that wasn't going to happen under Nico. So the team basically had to cut his losses.
I like Nico being particular about who he plays. I just want him to have more players like that on his bench that he likes, right? And if Nico is very particular, then why did we draft Bartlett?
Well, we drafted him, but that doesn't mean that draft picks
Someone
don't
signed
necessarily
off
pan
on
out.
that he's a good player, right?
Draft picks don't always pan out, and somebody, not Nico, somebody had to convince Nico to draft him and get him.
Right.
All right, and I'm just saying it's not the same thing. Schon was already on the roster. Nico already knew what he was getting from Schon.
Yeah.
Bartlett's a
I was
rookie,
talking about more Safari.
and Bartlett. I think you're seeing the players that aren't getting minutes. I think they have to be worried about, I think it's not going to happen. I think if it's a affordable cost to the team, like Siki, for example, Siki's costing peanuts.
Great pickup. Yeah.
You would not want to get rid of him, even if he's not a starter.
Mhm.
But you're starting to see players like Roberts, Bartlett, Munjoma. They're going to have to weigh, hey, are they good enough to be on this roster, or is it, are we paying them too much? I think Munjoma isn't getting paid too much, so I think he's safe. But Bartlett, we've seen McCallum got traded away. So I think that's what's going to happen with Bartlett. I'm not saying he's going to get caught, but I think Bartlett gets either loaned out next year to a USL Championship team or he's traded to a team like Minnesota United who need another body. He's a guy that is an athlete, but not necessarily a player, and that's what happened with Tafari. We got Tafari, and he was an athlete, not necessarily a player, and he's evolved into a solid player, not a must start player, and I think that's what they were going for with Bartlett. So he's going to have to make like a gigantic leap in the offseason.
Well, actually, our first pick was Parker. So
and Parker is
about
fine.
Parker, because you've seen a lot of Parker this year.
He's
Parker's
developing.
fine. Parker. Remember, he's 19 years old, and he was always going to spend a full year with North Texas. He's a player who's performing fine in North Texas. He looks like he's starting to outgrow North Texas, and the question is, how much will he improve? There's no rush on him, and Farfan is playing so good that next year you can afford to loan him out to a USL Championship team. So and he's a GA, so it's not like he's costing FC Dallas any money either. So Dallas can afford to take their time with him, especially since they hit a home run with Farfan.
Parker is also a winger, right? So where is he playing right now?
He's a left back. He's converting
to a left
back. Yes, that's where he's playing. And I'm just saying that's different than Bartlett. Bartlett is a numbers game. You've already got 4 center backs ahead of him, and you got Quinones ahead of him right now, and he's the 4th center back. So Bartlett's your 5th center back. I'm sorry, I wouldn't be shocked. Like I said, I expect him to be loaned out or unless he makes like massive improvements, but we don't know. We don't know how. I'm just saying they could go extreme. I mean, you never know. Sonora could say, "Hey, if they're not getting minutes, they're all gone." Roberts, Munjoma, El Metcalf. I mean, and would we all really be upset? No. Depends on who they bring in. We'd be like, "Wow, they're cleaning house."
I think I've seen enough talent with Munjoma now that he's a possibility to get better. I think he's got the framework. It's just the touches and the mentality.
And that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to Nico basically saying, Yes, that guy can fit my system. No, that guy cannot fit my system. And I wouldn't, like I said, it's next year. It's I think there's some players to here that are going to be earning their stripes for next year right now and during this run because the team's going to need their bench players to come through.
Well, good. Well, let's jump over to one more topic, which is also another announcement for FC Dallas of a friendly against Tigres, September 24th, 5 p.m. a midweek matchup. A lot of, well, actually, never mind. It is a Friday. It is a Saturday. As I'm looking at my calendar wrong. A friendly. It'll be fun, but it'll be in the mix of this playoff push, and so I think there is some conversation about, our buddy Hoch here says, it's right before playoffs. Seems like a play the kids and take a big loss could hurt the image of the club. Wish it was after the season, but on the other hand, it could keep guys fit. It could,
I think so. I think
Yeah.
you got to remember that our players like Quignon and Cervania and Siki, they need minutes. They need minutes. You're asking, and Tafari needs minutes, and Quinones needs minutes. Uh, Nanu needs minutes. Jimmy. So you've got guys that need minutes, and yeah, that's what this game's for. This game's for. I mean, I play Football Manager, and if I got to buy, I'm scheduling friendly, and I'm playing all the guys that are out of form, and that's what's going to happen. And I don't really care if they beat them or not. I'm more concerned with the fact that it's going to be like 99% Tigres fans out in the stands, and there's going to be like 20 FCD fans out there. So I'm just saying that's my biggest concern.
You have a thin roster. Let's play an extra game right before the playoffs of players that we really need to rest because we haven't rested them all year. So it's going to be the B team. It's got to be the B team with a cameo appearance from Jesus plays 10 minutes and comes out. I don't know. It just doesn't make much sense to have it that time of the year. Maybe
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with. There's some guys that I don't want to see play in that game, like Matt Hedges. Why would you play someone like him on there? So I think as long as the players we can afford to have injured don't play at all, or play maybe 10 minutes, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's good for everybody else, and honestly, like I said, it's a stay busy, stay in shape. You want the players focused too. It's all about getting into class and trying out some wrinkles. So I think it's good, and it's not like Tigres is going to be playing their top team either. So I think it'll be a solid competitive game.
Yeah. Be fun. Good marketing for FC Dallas. Get more fans in the stadium from across DFW, and put on a little show maybe.
I say bring up a couple of North Texas kids and see how they perform against Tigres. I love to see.
I want to say I went to the Leon game when FC Dallas played Leon many years ago.
I like to see Parker get a shot. I like to see. I like to see some of those North Texas kids come up and practice with the first team. And play against Tigres. Why not? If you want to sign some of these guys, it'd be nice to see what they got.
Yeah. Well,
I want to add since I know you want to wrap it up here soon. North Texas has 3 games left. They're currently in 4th place. They play Minnesota United 2, and honestly, this is a must win. And if not a must win, they got to get at least 2 points out of this. A win against Minnesota United eliminates Minnesota United from the playoffs. And also, I think San Jose is about 6 points back. With 3 matches left, a win against Minnesota United would pretty much lock North Texas into a playoff spot. And it's a must win, not because it's a must win. Because of their last 2 opponents. The last 2 opponents for North Texas are St. Louis and Houston, 2 teams that they have yet to defeat, and 2 teams that they're going to play in the playoffs. So it's going to be tough for North Texas to get 3 points against either of those two teams. Not that they can't get a draw or 2 points against them, but they could solidify their playoff, lock down their playoffs with a win against Minnesota United, and then worry about positioning with the next two games. It would be better for the team to do it that way as opposed to, get no points against Minnesota United and then have to get a point against 3 points against Houston or St. Louis. So, and that's what it's going to be. I'd rather they beat Minnesota United and then play a vanilla type game against playoff opponents. Really.
Yeah. It'll be a doubleheader. It'll be a doubleheader up there in Minnesota. So, as FC Dallas plays at Minnesota in the afternoon, and then North Texas plays Minnesota United 2 later that evening.
It's a winnable game, by the way, for North Texas. Minnesota United is a team that has struggled mightily when they have played North Texas. So it's definitely a team they can get at least 2 points against.
Well, then let's close our thoughts with our predictions for this weekend and your hopes or your predictions. I don't know if you want to mix the two or what, but as FC Dallas goes to play at Minnesota United, the benefit of this schedule is that Minnesota will play Real Salt Lake, I think at Real Salt Lake on Wednesday, and then be home against FC Dallas on Saturday. So a huge week for Minnesota and their playoff aspirations. Huge week for Real Salt Lake as they try to stay in the playoff hunt, and a huge week for FC Dallas. So I've been pondering this over all week because it's like Minnesota could play a little cat and mouse here, and they could go up and just bunker against Real Salt Lake and play a lot of rotated guys and just hope to come out, maybe scrounge out a draw. And if they take a loss, they take a loss, but then bring their full best 11 against FC Dallas at home. So it'll be interesting to see what Minnesota does, but Minnesota may also consider this Real Salt Lake a good chance for them to get points and beat Real Salt Lake in their own house. And then if so, then we could face a rotated squad at home. So it's going to be an interesting situation just to see how these teams line up. But it's going to be a tough one. Minnesota's a tough place to play. I'm hoping for a 1-1 draw. I would be happy with that, at least to keep some positive results. But I would absolutely love for the game to be 1-1 into the 90th minute and for Dallas just to get that clutch go-ahead goal, a Jesus Ferreira counterattack, to get steal all 3 points. Or maybe even 0-1, just the last gasp goal, That's my hope.
It's a game that Dallas has a real chance to get a result from, be it a draw or 3 points, because it's not that Minnesota's playing RSL, it's that they're playing in RSL at altitude, and regardless of what kind of style they play there, it's going to be a taxing game for them, and you're going to have a tired team playing. Even though they're at home, I expect a sloppy game. I mean, Dallas doesn't always travel great, so yeah, it's a game where Dallas needs to grab a goal early, and then hold on, try to get 3 points or get out of there with 1 point. So, and in all honesty, I hope they get a result, because I think I would feel better about the RSL draw if Dallas goes down there and gets a result against Minnesota. I think that would make up for dropping points at home. Yeah. It would be huge.
Tommy?
Well, FC Dallas has been, different personalities. I mean, this year, we're going to get the team that's not going to close out the game and make a mental mistake or just give up or, just have this fluke goal that they give up and, they tie. I mean, how many times has that happened this year? I mean, I would say we're close to 10 times that we, tied a game or lost a goal because of one silly play, right? We just went on the road and went to Nashville and lost 4-0. So I'm hoping the team will say, hey, look, this is not really us. We didn't have Jesus. We're not that team. And then also, look at back then when Minnesota came over here and beat us 2-1 in our own house. So I'm interested to see what FC Dallas team is going to show up. Is it going to be the one that went to Orlando and beat them 3-1 on the road, or is it going to be the one that showed up in Nashville, or the one that's fluky, or the one that I'm hoping it's the one that went to Orlando. We'll see. I got a feeling that it's we'll do good, but it's every week is different for this team.
I mean, let's. I just want to point out that Nashville went and crushed Vancouver 3-0 this past weekend, and
that's an excellent point. Yeah,
I think Philadelphia has murdered their last two teams they played after Dallas. I mean, I think they scored like 7-8 goals combined in those two matches, and so I think we'll get a good solid game. I don't think Minnesota. I think Minnesota's going to play the way we've seen teams play against Dallas, bunker, try to counter and catch them slipping. And that'll be mostly because of tired legs, not because that's their preferred style. I mean, it'll be because they're gonna want to salvage some energy. So I expect a very tight defensive back and forth. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 0-0 game, in all honesty, provided that we don't have any slip ups on defense like we tend to have from time to time.
I definitely think we can win. I just we'll see what team shows up.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's leave it there. Of course, we'll be uploading the audio to wherever you find podcasts. And please subscribe. Please help share the show and join us as we have fun. Thanks, everybody, for the great comments. Hoach, the Couve. I think it was just you two guys.
That's all right.
Missed a few others tonight, but hey, new time. We will be kind of plugging that away. That now at 8 p.m. Central Time, a little less late as we deal with work schedules, school schedules, and all that stuff. All right. So we'll see you next Monday.
All right. See you next
Monday.
Monday.
Good night.
Good night.